Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I've just started the webinar now. I see people are filtering in. This is being recorded, so you can just press that little button at the top if you are happy and agree with it. You can just press OK. Um, I'm just going to wait for everybody to join, all the participants that we're waiting on. Just give maybe one more minute. I see some people are already using the chat box, which is amazing. So thank you. Hello from Christian Ella to everyone. That's awesome. We strongly encourage you to use the chat box during this entire event and this presentation. There will be time for Q&As after, but please feel free. It's nice to connect and interact with others. And if you have any questions, you can definitely pop them in there. We'll do our best to answer them throughout. But with that, I think we have about 50 participants so far. We'll likely continue to go up. But it is 12:01, and I know we have quite a bit to get through, Sonia. So I'm just going to jump right in, and I'd like to just introduce us ourselves and just give you a little rundown of what to expect today. So my name is Shannon Blanchfield. I'm the Associate VP here at Devant of Client Success. So I work really closely with institutional partners and with career product team to help ensure students and alumni have access to practical tools, resources, programming, and to help support their career growth. And I'm also joined today by Sonia Sheechoria. So Sonia is Devant's career product development consultant and a career coach. She's a not-for-profit leader and talent strategist with more than 12 years of experience. So she's led teams at the director level and specializes in helping professionals strengthen their brand, their personal brand, navigate career transitions, and approach the job market with more clarity and confidence. So today's session, thank you all for joining. It is called Interview and Job Search Execution. And we want this to be a simple focus, how to turn your interviews into offers. So Sonia will be taking us through today's content, including how to prepare for interviews using storytelling, structured responses. We're going to answer some common interview questions with more confidence and clarity, how to communicate your impact and professional value effectively, approach salary discussions and follow-ups strategically, and build and maintain professional networks that support long-term career growth. So the flow of today will be Sonia will lead the main workshop content. I will do a short and quick demo of the Devant platform so you can see where to access the tools and resources that can help support you in this job search. So you can actually walk away with something tangible. And then at the end, we will leave some time for a Q&A. So that said, please feel free to use the chat as I mentioned throughout the session. If questions come up, Sonia and I will do our best to answer them. But with that, I'll hand it over to Sonia to get us started.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Oh, just sending a request to share my screen and then, oh, perfect. And then we're going to go here and you should be able to see my deck now. I'm just opening up that a little bit wider.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So we're good to go here. So I am thrilled to be here today and sharing with you insight on my absolute favorite topic on interviewing. And we have a lot of ground to cover today. And if you have just recently graduated, congratulations. I know this is a really exciting time. If you are looking to make a change in your career, this can also be a really nerve-wracking and exciting time. I know that we are in a hyper competitive job market right now. But if you are landing interviews, that's a great job. That's a great sign that your resume, your cover letter, all of your personal branding assets are doing what it is that we need it to do. And you have already been deemed qualified on paper. You've now come to the interview stage, and it's now a matter of fit. If you are having trouble navigating landing the interview stage, we just wrapped 2 other webinars as part of this series that really will help you through those steps around your personal brand, your cover letter, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, networking, all of the elements that help you to landing the interview we've already covered. So this is going to be the last part of this series that taps on interviews, and we'll also get to the salary negotiation questions in here as well. Okay. My story. As someone who graduated in human resources management, I didn't actually work in my field for a very long time, but I did have that background and that basis in HR in that realm. Really passionate about talent recruitment, acquisition. However, my career took a little bit of a turn and I navigated in the nonprofit world and had a really amazing career there as well. And even in the nonprofit world, I had the opportunity about a year and a half ago to work as a recruiter in the nonprofit sector. So there's a lot of learnings that I was able to gather from there as well, from now being a career coach and also working as a recruiter in the realm to really understand from a recruiter's point of view, what is it that they're looking at. So a lot of that insight is what I'll be sharing with you today and my personal experiences. I personally, however, began interview coaching just a few years into my career. I am someone who has always been really curious about public speaking. I still get nervous when it comes to public speaking, but it's something that I would push myself throughout my time in university, throughout my volunteer work. I would push myself in the realm of public speaking because I understand how important these skills are that speak to so many other areas in our professional world that can strengthen our skill set. So really building on public speaking skills, and that's going to be one of the foundations for today as well, is how can you continue to build on your public speaking skills to strengthen your interviews. Also coming into interviews with a lot of confidence because I had that public speaking experience. I was coming in with confidence to really articulate myself and preparation, doing the work. All the two webinars that we just walked through, that's the groundwork that I had already completed myself personally, and that helped me fuel my confidence just by doing the preparation as well. So congratulations on taking the time to be here today because this is part of your preparation as well. So before we dive into specific questions and contents, there's a little bit of groundwork that's really important. And the first one is when you have an interview lined up, it's to really understand the type of interview that you are going into. Whenever we are getting called for an interview, whenever we are working within our job search strategy roadmap, the more information that you have up front, that will allow you to set yourself up for better success in your journey. So trying to understand what type of interview is going to be at the challenge and then working backwards on how to actually prepare for it. So number one is a phone screen. So sometimes, not all the time, there may be an initial phone screen that comes from a recruiter or someone on the HR team who will walk through skills and really try to understand your skills. So this is interesting because for a phone screen, you're meeting with a recruiter, not someone who's a part of the team. So they may not have very specific skills or be able to answer really hyper specific questions related to the department, to the team, to the work that the team is doing, but more so focused on what that was put in front of them in terms of the core responsibilities and the core skills required for the role. So that's really their job, is to understand your alignment from a skills perspective and also from a fit perspective, the types of organizations, the size and scope, and assessing those types of things. Then you may end up in a panel interview. So a panel interview is interesting because oftentimes there will be the hiring manager that sits on the panel as well, but you might also have individuals who are a part of other teams, managers of other teams, maybe cross-department managers that will also sit on the interview as well. Now they're coming in with a different perspective, thinking about how those two teams might work together. But this is really interesting as well when we think about the questions that you might ask at the end to keep in mind who's in the room as well. And we'll get to that. Then you might have a couple of interviews in between that's just one-on-one. So that's really going to be a great opportunity to really get to know that person as well and try to get as much information as you can from them. And again, great opportunity to connect. Then you may end up in an opportunity where you're meeting the team or you're meeting the CEO. Now, this is often reserved as the final round interview, and this is often a step that some teams, depending on the role, will take if you are the final candidate or the top two candidate. This can really be known as like a vibe check. What is it going to be like working with this person? Is this person going to be a good fit on the team? And it also is a good opportunity for you to assess if you feel like this is the right opportunity for you, if this is the right environment for you, and to really ask the questions about how the team works, how the CEO works, what are their goals, what are their priorities. And sometimes it might not be the CEO, it might be a head of the department, it might be a VP, or someone else that's a little bit senior. But oftentimes at this stage of the interview process, you are shortlisted as the top candidate or the top two candidates. So that's a great, great sign. Okay. So we did kind of touch on this a little bit. So the types of individuals, so the recruiters, the HR team, if you're asking questions to them, they might not necessarily know the day-to-day components of the team. That's more going to be questions reserved for the hiring manager to get really nitty-gritty into there. But the recruiter or the HR team can help you walk through company culture, those types of questions to understand what it's like working at that company and along those lines. The recruiter, this is going to be interesting too, because sometimes for larger organizations, and sometimes for more specialized fields, certain companies will use an outside firm. And that outside firm has a recruiter that may not be able to answer the questions that an HR team is able to answer as well. So just understanding the context is really important. Cross-department managers, it's always really important to understand who those managers are going to be sitting in your interview and trying to understand what role they play in the day-to-day work that you would be doing in that role, and moving on from there and trying to really understand it and engage with them and show that you understand what that fit is, and ask really thoughtful questions so that you can understand what that fit is. Okay, so now we're going to move into the really nitty-gritty. So common interview questions. For any interview that you walk into, these are your foundational questions that you want to make sure you are confident and comfortable answering them to your entirety. Because I can guarantee you that in any interview you go into, you're going to have to answer these questions in some way, shape, or form, in some variation of it. I still actively interview myself, even just to understand what's going out there in the market and to keep myself competitive as well. But even when I'm doing interviews as well, I'm finding that sometimes the interviewers can be very creative in the way that they're asking their questions, and it can feel like they're throwing you a curveball. So it's important that you take a beat and you really try to think through, okay, what is the point or the purpose of why they're trying to ask me this question? So I'll walk through some of those examples of how it could be turned into a curveball and what it is that they're actually asking you for. First and foremost is the ability to answer the tell me about yourself question. So oftentimes the interview will start with tell me about yourself, or why don't you start off by introducing yourself and answering XYZ question. It's always a really good opportunity to introduce yourself at the beginning of the interview. And even if they throw you a curveball where they don't ask you this, especially if you're sitting in front of a panel and they're just going straight into the questions, it's a really good opportunity for you to then take control of the narrative and say, I'm happy to answer that question. Just wanted to take a minute to introduce myself because I know that there's some new individuals in the room I haven't met yet, and I'm really excited to be here. So I've put together a formula on how you can answer this question, and I broke it down into four different areas. So number one is the introduction. So your very, very basic, your name, your tagline is essentially how you introduce yourself. Oftentimes it could be what's in your LinkedIn profile description. I am a community engagement professional. I am an administrative assistant with 5 years of experience, along those lines. Then you would back that up with your credentialing. So if you just graduated from the program or what your degrees may be that's relevant to the work, or maybe you had a little bit of a pivot later on in your career and not necessarily your credentialing doesn't necessarily align with what it is that you're studying, which is completely okay. But maybe you want to focus more on I have X number of years of experience working in this sector, working in this field, working in this industry. That's really good, solid foundation to start your introduction. Then you want to humanize your introduction as well. You want to go into why are you passionate about this line of work? My passion has always been working with a lot of individuals. My passion has always been being able to tell creative stories, being able to pull impact out of stories, storytelling, whatever it is along those lines. We spent a great deal on this in webinar number one to walk through it. So I encourage you to go back and check that out as well. Then you're going to go into summarize your skills and your abilities. So you could take this from two different approaches. You could say my strengths include and list out 3 strengths that come directly from the job posting. Or you could say I have a successful track record of XYZ. So maybe if you work in sales, maybe if you work in something that can be quantified really strongly, that might be where you plug that in here. Then you're going to wrap up by saying, I'm really excited to be here. I feel this would be a great role for me because it aligns with XYZ. So really, this isn't going to take you very long. This should take you, 60 to 90 seconds. It's a really, really good way to start your interview strong. And remember when we went back to some of those other slides, confidence is so important to show up in your interviews, and being able to start off on this footing will allow the interviewers to understand that you're confident in your own skills and abilities, because hiring managers and recruiters want to hire people that they feel are confident in themselves and can do the job. Okay. So the next one we're going into is, what do you know about the organization and why do you want to work here? Again, keep in mind, very rarely will they ask it so directly like this. It might be a little bit more creative. It might be, tell me why you want to be a part of this organization. What do you know about us? It might be, a two-parter question that they try to build in. And it's really important that you are showing to them that you've done the research on why them. And in particularly, why do or how do your personal values align with their values and where they're going? That is most likely the strongest way that you can articulate that answer by answering this question around the organization and showing that you did the work. So, for example, one of the reasons that compelled me to apply for this position is because of the important role the organization plays in advocacy and working with different levels of government to influence change. Being a part of the bigger picture and seeing change happen in real time will be a fulfilling place to work. To make this even stronger, I would even layer in specific examples of their advocacy work that's been recent in the news that I know about, that I follow them on social media, and that I'm well aware of what it is that I'm saying I'm passionate about at their organization. Some candidates use this as an opportunity to align with the organization's mission, vision, and values, or strategic plan or impact reports. So again, this is where you are showing that you took the time to do research on the company and your personal values, your interests align with who they are. Okay, next one is the weakness question. Can you share one of your weaknesses with us and how has that hindered your performance? So very rarely will it ever be framed like this. Most likely it's going to be, can you share one of your weaknesses with us? And they end it there. Very bizarre for them to end that question there when really what it is that they want to know is, what is or was your weakness, and how are you working on improving it? So really, they're trying to understand how self-aware are you, and have you done the work or are doing the work to improve on your skills. So remember, keep in mind, interviewing, they've already determined that you're qualified for the role. Now it's, are you a fit for the role? So these are some of the hidden things that they're looking for in your answers and how you answer the question. So you want to, again, you want to be able to show that you're developing skills to work on this and that it's still a work in progress. Otherwise, they may ask that you mention another one. So one example is in my various roles, I worked with many individuals who aren't necessarily in administrative roles. This can include deans, professors, researchers, and so on. I found these individuals tend to be very visionary and blue sky thinking when working on projects with them. I realize they can be ambiguous, and as a detailed oriented person, I really struggled with this. I navigated this by learning to ask questions that will give me the answers I need to be successful in my work. I'm still working on my repertoire of great questions to ask, but I'm also learning to listen better as well. So that is a really good, solid example, a real-time example. I've identified what the concerns were, how I'm working on it, and where I'm going in the future with this. The other part to mention here is try to avoid the most frequently asked or answered question types of answers. For example, for the weakness question, we have heard it time and time again in recruiters, being a perfectionist, working too hard, those types of things. They're very common. Think about if you were the recruiter and the hiring manager constantly having interviews and hearing the same answer over and over again. I don't doubt that you are probably a very hard worker and you probably are a perfectionist, but it's something that they've heard time and time again to the point where they think it's canned, they think it's scripted. So I encourage you to think of something that is hyper specific to you and the work that you are doing, your specific career path. Again, to show that you are self-aware on what your skills are and what it is that you are working on. Okay, can you share 3 of your strengths and how it will help you in this role? So ensure that you're aligning the strengths to the position of the role that you are looking to land in. What's really important is that oftentimes folks will answer this question based off of, okay, what are my top 3 skills and strengths that I have right now that make me an incredible employee? But really, what the hiring managers and the recruiters want to hear is what are the top 3 skills and strengths you have that will make you successful in this role, that make you a great fit for this role, which means as much as creativity, organizational skills, and problem solving skills might be your top 3, if they are nowhere in that job posting listed as a skill or a strength or a requirement, I would avoid using it because this is really good opportunity for you to, again, show your alignment, show your fit. So I have some examples that we'll walk through on how you pull out what those strengths are. But for some examples, and also you also want to think about what's important for your sector, trying to do a little bit of research on your industry and thinking through the future of your industry and what skills are going to be important to you then. So for example, in the nonprofit and public sector, I pulled out skills like entrepreneurial, detail-oriented, collaborative, creative, empathetic, passionate, problem solver, flexible, patient, honest, dedicated, positive, able to lead, expert in a certain skill or software. So again, think about the future, think about and the role as well. Example, I come with a lot of energy and positivity. I've been hired onto certain teams to help boost morale by encouraging the team to work more collaboratively on projects. Historically, my energy has been infectious and my colleagues want to contribute because I am working hard to ensure they feel heard and incorporate their ideas. This is a really, really good example because it's articulating leadership skills without actually being in a position of leadership. This is another example of how you can, if you're looking to level up in your career, make a move up in your career, and you're trying to show those certain skill set, that's the opportunity for you to think through what are the answers, what are the examples in your career that highlight this the most. Again, thinking about your fit. How are you going to fit in with this organization, with the team, with the department, with the hiring manager? Okay. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So again, different variations of this question, 3 to 5 years, 3 years, what are you excited for in the future, etc. Interestingly enough, they are listening to hear what your desires are to learn and grow with them. So what you don't want to do is make mention of leaving for another company, your dream job. I wholeheartedly encourage you to have all of those dreams and write them down somewhere so you stay accountable to them. But the interview is not the time for you to share that with them. What I want you to do is focus your answer from the perspective of a skills and strengths positioning. So for here, in 5 years, I see myself being a better version of who I am now. Growing as a professional is important to me, and I want to continue learning, growing, and reaching my targets. Not only do I want to grow this company, but it's important to me to also grow this portfolio. I take great pride in my work, and I want to leave things 10 times better than how I found it. It would be a great goal for me to grow this portfolio exponentially to the point where I can manage a team. So this example here is great because it's touched on three different things here. It touched on helping the company grow altogether, growing the team, growing this individual's own portfolio to be bigger and stronger, and then also growing to a point of managing a team. So this is a really good example because it highlighted multiple different things that this person wants to accomplish within 5 years while being at the company, and is hyper specific to the company and still talks about their skills and their strengths in the answer. Okay, I know that was a lot. So now we're going to go into situational interview questions. This is really important because this is the proof in the pudding. This is your time to tell a story. Being a storyteller is a really good skill to have in your interviewing practice. So this is why I encourage you to always continue practicing and being a strong public speaker and taking opportunities to speak in group projects, at work, in workshops, taking those opportunities to really challenging yourself so that you can work on these skills behind the scenes as well. I think we call that habit stacking. So three different ways that you can look at this, or sorry, two different ways that you can look at this. If you already use the STAR method, then you can continue to use the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. However, another career coach here at Devant, Emma Martini, she shared that if you are using the STAR method, you want to add another R in there that stands for relational. So how does this example that you just shared tie back to the organization? Why is this relevant to the organization, to the team, to the department? Why are you sharing that example? If you haven't used the STAR method, you're not necessarily tied to it. Maybe you have a few more years of experience under your belt, then I encourage you to simplify your formula to problem, process, impact. This really focuses on the steps that you took and the impact that you had. So number one is setting the stage. What was the problem that you were trying to solve? Number two is, what was your process to solving the problem? This is where the bulk of your answer is going to be. You may have had to do some research, consult with a team, put a committee together, work with your manager, call vendors, whatever it is. So you're going to walk through those various steps that you took to solve the problem. Then, in order to wrap up the question, we really want to hit on impact. That is the most important part of situational interview questions, is because of the work that you did, what was the impact that you then had on the organization, on the department, on the team, on the metrics, on the KPIs? How did that help move the situation forward, and how was that a benefit to the organization as well? You can build out, I encourage you to build out a bit of a grid for yourself, a bit of a chart. And this is so important because this is something that you're going to keep with you for the rest of your career. And this is going to make job searching and interviewing such a breeze and reduce the stress on your prep in your career. Because what's going to happen is for every job that you have, you're going to add just a few examples, 1 to 2 examples, your top high level examples to this chart. You can also add group projects, volunteer opportunities. If you were a leader in intramurals or sports or anything along those lines from your student experience as well are really, really important. So I'm actually going to walk through one example from my student experience from 2015 that actually carried me in my first few interviews when I graduated and was trying to secure a full-time permanent role. So I was the vice president of operations for the HR Student Association. In this volunteer role, the leadership team wanted to implement a new mentorship program for senior students to mentor first year students as they felt there was so much opportunity to foster meaningful connections. First, I connected with my senior classmates to assess their interest in the program. Then I developed an online questionnaire to be entered into the program and organize an in-person speed mentoring session for the mentees and mentors to meet. Then we matched them up. We had a whole year of programming. From my efforts, so this is now where the impact is going to be felt. From my efforts, the Student Association graduated 24 mentor-mentee pairs. I built the foundation for the mentorship model that continues to grow year after year and build momentum. I was able to increase the student group's profile, and from these efforts, they won the Faculty Student Club of the Year award. Very powerful. So in here, I want to go back to this because this is really important. From my efforts, again, I'm tying this example back to what I did, not what my team did, not what my manager helped lead, from my efforts. And yes, completely, in this example here, in your process, you're definitely going to be working with other people, working with other teams, other individuals. But again, the example needs to highlight your impact of what it was that what you worked on. And if you're building this out into a chart form, I encourage you to highlight a couple of skills in here as well, so that when you are prepping, you can easily glance and see, okay, the role that I'm interviewing for talks quite a bit about leadership skills. Okay, great. I've got one example here. I've got another example here. This makes it really easy for me to prep for my interview. Okay, so when it comes to situational interview questions, I encourage you to have at least 5 examples. I would say 7, the lucky number 7 is a really good spot to be. And again, different examples. You might have them from babysitting, you might have them from sports. Like I mentioned earlier, they're going to be in all different areas of your life that you're going to be pulling these examples from, not necessarily professional experiences or 9 to 5 work experiences, traditional work experiences. You want to have a variety of answers, of situational answers as well. Like I mentioned in that skills category, you want to think through examples that highlight different skills. And we're going to look at job postings to really think through some of that as well, and keywords. In your examples, are you hitting on the right keywords for that organization, for that industry that is meaningful to them as well? Okay, then it's your turn to ask questions. This is really important too. Asking thoughtful questions. I always encourage, prepare 5. 5 may sound like a lot, but you may have questions that you are planning to ask that they end up covering anyway. So you want to be prepared with your questions. You also want to show that you are an active listener. can you incorporate new information that you learned in the interview into your questions? For example, you shared that you are working on XYZ project right now. How do you foresee that working with this department? What opportunities for collaboration are going to arise out of this, etc.? And how does this role play, how does this person play a role in that project? So thinking through things like that. For panel interviews, a really good, memorable tip is to prepare one question for each panelist that really focuses on their expertise and where it is that they're sitting in the organization and that the relevancy to that and the department that you're interviewing for as well. That really helps individuals stay engaged in the interview process and again, makes you memorable. Okay, so let's just go through one example of a job posting to really unpack this. I always tell job seekers that everything that they are looking to hear from you in an interview is in the job posting. Sometimes it may take a little bit of decoding, but oftentimes everything is here that you want to prepare your examples on. So I'm just going to skip right down to job responsibilities. The program assistant will deliver regularly offered continuing educational seminars or conferences supporting the planning, logistics, and contract administration, assisting in securing speakers, sponsors, attending all events, greeting speakers, registering attendees, committing to the goal of perfectly delivered events. Wow, what a mouthful. So in this one bullet alone, I've unpacked so many things. They're looking for someone with organizational skills. They need someone with attention to detail, someone who can manage multiple projects at one time, and is going to do that with really good accuracy and attention to detail. So now I'm going to think through and think about my examples from my career. When did I work on a multi-step project? When did I work on things that I had multiple things going on at one time and maybe it didn't go according to plan? I had to pivot. There's opportunities here of coordinating with other individuals. So customer service is going to be really important. Attention to detail, like I mentioned before. The program assistant is responsible for supporting program delivery, such as coordinating aspects of the program. Okay, so we had mentioned that before as well. Project management is really important here. So thinking through, what types of tools or resources have I used in the past to be successful in project management? If we skip down here, all administrative tasks associated with the program position are responsibility of the program assistant, such as setting and keeping schedules using an all this platform. So someone who is technology, who has experience using different types of platforms. There's multiple different platforms that they mentioned here: Eventbrite, Constant Contact, Slack, Monday.com. So that's really important information for you to also use to craft your examples around technology platforms and your use of that. Record keeping. So again, the record keeping here. So this is actually code for confidentiality. How well can you keep sensitive information secure, and how well have you done managing that and overseeing that? So this is why it's really helpful if you have a coach, if you have a mentor, that you can sit down with someone and have them really help you unpack some of these examples and work with you on the examples to make sure that it's crafted in a way that the hiring managers and recruiters are getting the right information from you. Okay, I'll skip through these because I know we're going to run short on time. So salary topic. This is really important because I know this can be such a daunting question. I went through so many years of my career trying to avoid this question, when it's almost inevitable to avoid it. And really, my recommendation is to do your research. Like, you always need to know going into there. You always need to know what your range is that you are going to be saying if they ask you for your desired range. What you don't want to do is you don't want to provide a number when they ask you what your salary expectations are, especially in a round one interview. It's really, you're trying to check for fit. They're trying to check your fit. You're trying to check their fit. Is this the right opportunity for you as well? And the concerns with giving a number is that we've seen a pattern that they often hold you to that number, and you are still learning about the opportunity, learning about the job, learning about the scope that might impact and influence what it is that you might be asking for when you get to that negotiation stage. So I would encourage you to, if you can, to not provide an answer by saying that, salary isn't necessarily a priority discussion point for you right now, and that your priority is to understand the fit for both of you. I have been in situations and I've heard of other candidates in situations where recruiters will push you for a number. Being a recruiter myself at a firm, I have now been on the back end where when we present candidates to a hiring manager, we are presenting them on a grid. One of the columns on that grid is salary expectation. So if that column, um, if that cell is left blank, it's going to be not necessarily that you're disqualified, but now they're not looking as closely compared to the other candidates that do have a complete profile. So it does sometimes make a difference, and some of them will push you to put a number down so that they can put it on their, do the work that they need to do on their end. So oftentimes individuals don't realize that that's how it's working when you're at a recruitment firm, which is why it's really important. The best thing that you can do is to, if there isn't a salary listed on the job posting, it's fair for you to throw that question back to them. I noticed that there wasn't a salary posted on the job posting. Are you able to share what the hiring range is for this position? Hopefully they're able to share it right away and you can say, great, I'm aligned with what you've shared and that's great. You can move on from there. If they don't, sometimes I've been in situations where I've asked them, could you please confirm that before we move on to round two? Now that was a situation where I wasn't necessarily actively looking, so I was happy to withdraw myself from that search if I needed to. But again, trying to put the onus back on them to get that information to you. Okay. So a couple of things that we talked about: public speaking skills, being self-aware, showing your alignment, being able to market yourself. Those are really the formulas for success. I want you to also dress for success as well. Rule of thumb is what is their day-to-day attire and thinking above that. I'm someone who I know that first impressions matter as a career coach, someone who worked in HR. I understand that this is really important. So I encourage you to wear something that you are confident and comfortable in. You don't need a brand new wardrobe. Really, 2 or 3 blazers, if you're early in your career, will take you very far in your career. You really don't need to spend a lot of money to be able to feel good and feel confident. A couple of tips. So practicing out loud. Shannon has some great tools and resources for you to be able to do that independently. Using flashcards, being able to test yourself, and being able to answer questions when you don't know what might be coming your way. Really, really good. Recording yourself as well. So these are all things that Devant can help you with. Researching your sector questions. So very important, planning your outfit and asking a mentor or a coach for their advice as well. Okay, so I think we talked quite a bit about all of this. The only thing that I'll mention is at the very bottom. So, interview duration. So again, the more information that you know about the interview, the better you are set up for success. So also finding out the time, how long, is this a 30-minute interview, 45 minutes, 1 hour? It does make a difference. Who you're meeting with, their exact job titles, respecting everyone. Your interview starts the minute you step on the premises. So everyone you meet, everyone, really think of that experience as part of the interview process as well. So be really respectful of everyone that you're meeting. Have energy. If this is a virtual interview, it can be really, really hard. I'm not sure if you could tell right now, but I'm actually standing up to do this webinar. And that way you can see my body language, my energy, and you're really getting my personal brand from this experience here. If I was sitting down, that would be a completely different experience as well. So not saying that you have to stand up to do your virtual interview, but just making sure that you're mindful of your body language, of your energy. If you need to do 20 jumping jacks before you jump on that interview, then I highly encourage you do that. And follow up. Believe it or not, the follow up does make a really big difference, especially in situations where you felt like, maybe there's 1 or 2 questions I felt like I really could have answered so much better. In your follow-up email, this is your opportunity to add that in there. I really enjoyed talking about XYZ. I have experience working in X, A, B, C, and really being able to tighten that up really closely, and show your confidence and again, end on a strong footing. So almost finished. Just two things to keep in mind. I know that this is really, really stressful. I know that you're looking at someone who's done a lot of interviews, and now I'm a career coach, and it's a lot easier for me to say it, to be confident and to have a good mindset. But when I was a coordinator trying to move to a manager level, I had 7 round 1 interviews in 2 weeks, in a 2 week time period. So yes, I understand how emotionally exhausting and draining this process could be for you, but I encourage you to keep in mind, again, you've made it to the interview. That means you're qualified. That means that they would be lucky to have you. But is this the right opportunity for you? So try to take control and think through it that way. And if it doesn't work out right now, that doesn't mean it's not going to work out forever. This is a opportunity for you to maintain a professional a connection in your network, and harness that for future opportunities later on down the line. I've often heard from individuals who will get who won't be successful in an interview, but then a month later they get called for another opportunity that they weren't even asked to interview for. It was simply offered to them. So keep in mind how you handle those situations, even if they are discouraging or not necessarily the answer that you were looking for. It doesn't mean it's the very end of the road for that opportunity and for that organization. Okay, you got this. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sonia. That was wonderful and so much information. We will be sending out the recording as well as the slide decks in our follow-up email. But right now, I just want to walk you through our platform. So here at Devant, we believe in the importance of process. Preparation, so you stop and take the time to review your resume and your employer, you do your research, you ensure you're using your time most efficiently and effectively, and then also you prepare and plan and follow it. So paying attention to what's working and what's not working. And our platform and career coaches are designed specifically to provide you with the resources and knowledge to do this. And like we've discussed today, standing out in interviews takes some work. So it's not about just kind of going in there blindly. It's, you need to communicate your value clearly, position yourself strategically, and build confidence in how to do that. So from that, I would like to share with you this platform. So please let me know if you're able to see this. Perfect. Okay. So this is the Alumni Advantage. We've created this specifically for alumni, for graduates who need a little bit of extra help or, along in their career journey. We have a lot of different events that we host, and this is 24/7 access. So one of the most powerful features within this platform, we've just talked a lot about interviewing and how you can practice and build your confidence, is our Interview 360, our mock interview tool. So this uses the latest in AI technology. You can create a resume within the platform, and then you can upload it to this platform. You can also, if you already have a resume, you can upload it and use that one as well. What this will do is it will pull questions specifically from your resume, and it will ask you those questions. So it will prompt you with a question. It'll give you a few seconds to think of your answer, and then it will start recording you. So these are some of the questions that were pulled specifically directly from my resume. So you get this question, you get a few seconds to think of your answer, and then you start your answer. And it is recorded and it is transcribed. So you can go back and view it anytime you'd like and see how you're presenting yourself. There's some key points that you want to make sure that these are the key points that your employer would be looking for you to hit on. So this is a bit self-led, but you want to make sure, yes, this is how I answered that question, or no, I should go back and I should redo that particular question in that interview. This is the AI analysis of your answer. So how you came across, so your communication style, your eye movement, smile frequency. If there's no smiling, you can press this little icon and it'll explain a little bit about what an employer might be looking for in terms of smile frequency. You have communication and speech, so your rate and your clarity. If you're using a lot of filler words, you can see where you've used those. And then a little bit more technical, but the camera position and video quality. So sometimes, in a first interview, it might be virtual. So you want to make sure that your video and your camera are working just really well. The other thing I'd like to mention is the resume scanner. So many candidates, you submit your resume without realizing that employers don't often look at the resume. It's actually an applicant tracking system that looks and scans it first before presenting it to a recruiter or the employer. So this is a great tool you can use. You can upload your resume or you can again create one within this platform and you can scan it as many times as you'd like. You are provided with a score out of 100, and you want to make sure that you're getting a green circle. So anywhere above 80% is going to probably help you pass those applicant tracking systems. You can view your feedback here, and anything with a red icon, you're going to want to work on and improve. So there's a few things here, but there's 58 different sections and checks that it will go through for you. And then you can just look at them. You can update your resume from there. And then again, you can just rescan it as many times as you'd like. There's even like a word bank or a word cloud. So it can, if you're looking at some keywords within your resume or for comparing it to a job description, you can see what words are really standing out and see, am I making sure that I'm hitting on all of those keywords. Might be down here. There it is, just right there. So that's really interesting as well. So you can see, give you a very good visual on what skills and keywords are coming through. Okay, so let's see. Another really great tool that you can find on here is a LinkedIn mini course. So for those of you who have come to the previous webinar series and events, we have talked a lot about personal branding and how important that is. You send in your resume, it gets through the applicant tracking system, it lands with a recruiter or an employer, and oftentimes the first thing they're going to look at is your LinkedIn profile to kind of get a feel for who you are. So this is just a really great way to feel confident when you land on LinkedIn. If you're not sure about your personal branding and how you want to come across, this will walk you right through it. It's with one of our wonderful career coaches, Keelan Stetchy. And we do have lots of other career coaches for you to work with. So, in Sonia's discussion there, she did talk about working with a mentor. Those are often hard to come by, but we have a lot of wonderful career coaches that you can work one-on-one with. I know there was a few questions there in the chat asking about this. We have about 5 different career coaches. They have lots of experience in different sectors and industries. You can choose which one you'd like to work with one-on-one, and they can really give you kind of that foundation or that level up that you're looking for in terms of, I've been looking, I can't find a job, I've applied, I don't know what's going on. This is a really great way. ChatGPT and AI are great, but they can only get you so far. They're not going to take the nuances of you and who you are. So yeah, we really implore you to look into this. The platform is wonderful. And if you want that step further, our career coaches are there for you as well. I don't want to go through too many. We do have another feature on this platform called Grow. So if you're looking for transferable skills, I know we talked about salary negotiation or communication skills in this presentation. Grow is a wonderful way that you can practice those things. So if you were, feeling a little bit nervous about talking to your manager about a salary increase or a negotiation, this is a great place to practice it and feel more confident. So it will ask you some questions, it'll prompt you, and again, it will record your response, and you can go back and view it and see how you've responded and take it from there. So wonderful tools on here. You can build your personal brand, discover career options, get work experience, etc. This is our bulletin board. You can always manage your subscriptions right here. We will be sending a follow-up email. Again, it will include the recording of this video. It will include the slides that Sonia has gone through, and we'll also be including the link to the alumni platform, which you can purchase from there. And we'll also be including a little discount for you for attending this event. But it's a really wonderful network to join. We have a private LinkedIn community where our career coaches are there. There's other alumni within the community that post, and we share information and stories. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful place for you to start, especially if you're feeling, frustrated or kind of disheartened. Um, it's a wonderful tool and service that we offer. So with that, I know we only have about 5 minutes left for Q&A. I know there were some in the chat and in the Q&A box.
Yeah, I'm happy to run through some of them. But first, on the Devant one question on the cost. Is there a membership fee for Devant?
Yes, there is a membership fee. So it's typically $39.99 for access, but because you have attended this event, we will be providing a discount code for you in our follow-up email. So that will take around 15% off for you. So just keep an eye out for that email and that code. And then yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, great. And then we have someone who graduated from Humber. Congratulations, and can't log in using their Humber credentials. So how can we triage them?
Okay, so I know that Humber usually has the credentials for up to 2 years after like post-graduation. So if you wanted to reach out to us at info@devant.ca, we could help you from there for sure because you should still have access.
Okay, wonderful. And then a couple other questions that I can touch on really quickly. The market research for salary is essential. How do you reply to this question on the additional information questionnaire? Some ask for a range, some ask for a strict number. How do you pass this one safely? Unfortunately, if we're talking about a job application form, oftentimes those fields, like you had mentioned, are preset. So if you can put a range in, I encourage you to put a range in there by doing research on specifically your industry and the market and the region that you're in is going to be really important. If you have to put a number down, I would say pick a number in that middle range because you wouldn't want to, go too low or too high. So middle is always safe, and don't stress yourself out too much on the application form piece. If you're going with the middle range number, then I believe that will leave you some leeway for negotiation towards the end, but I think that that's probably the safest way that you can navigate that. And then for online interviews, is it acceptable to keep a few brief notes or cue cards nearby with a few examples? Yes, absolutely. So I would say like the best thing to do, especially for your eye contact, so that you're still being engaging, is you can have a few post-it notes up along the top of your computer screen at eye level. Things like maybe some of those frequently asked questions that we went through, like what are your top three strengths that you want to hit on? What is the company's mission? What are certain keywords that you want to hit on? I even went so far to encourage folks to have abbreviations for each of your examples that you're going to have, or have like a one word that reminds you of what that example is, so that in your back pocket, okay, I put down coordinating big event, or like I put down exactly what that name is, so I know how I want to answer that question. Okay. And then how to handle robocalls from companies with all sorts of questions. Some are general, like hybrid remote working setup. The main issue is they call without notice, and talking to a robot makes it less easy to push for better timing for the call. So that's really interesting because I'm not terribly familiar with this. So if there's an opportunity for you to try to schedule the call, even if it is a robot that's calling you, but trying to schedule that call so that you have more privacy, number one, to answer those questions, and to also ensure, because I'm also very mindful of the scams that's happening right now, and for those that are on the job market actively looking, so just making sure that you're speaking to reliable sources. Okay, and then Does this also work for remote jobs? Can we also send an email asking for feedback after a rejection email? Absolutely. You can always ask, even if it's for a remote job, because you're getting feedback on how you interview. Were there questions that they felt like you felt flat on, or they felt like you didn't answer it to the entirety? That's going to be really good feedback for you to know going into your other interviews. And then another question here from Tara on the portfolio pieces. So if you have a portfolio career, maybe you're doing consultant work, maybe you're doing freelance work. So this is one of those situations where it's always best to it's very unique here for your situation. So if we were in a coaching call, I would try to ask questions of you to find out, is your career more geared towards the portfolio avenue, or do you also have something full time and then this is something that you're doing to complement that? So those questions play a factor in how I would how I would answer that question for you. So it really just depends. There's certain situations where you could have a business name, not maybe not an official business, but you're operating under your own name, your own entity, and you do all your freelancing under that category, and that's how you would articulate it on your resume, or your LinkedIn profile. But in some situations, your role might have been so big or so grand that you covered so much, and it's hard to do that and bundling all these different opportunities under one. Okay, so I know we're at 1 o'clock, so I know I have to leave it there.
Yes, I know we do. And I just wanted to clarify that 39.99 is for 6 months of access. It's not per month. So it's actually, just much different than 39.99 a month. And again, you'll have a code that you'll receive for coming to this event. We also have a gift button that you can share if you wanted to, have a parent or somebody purchase the platform on your behalf. So with that, I know there's quite a few other questions going on. I definitely suggest that if you are having like some issues or running into the same concerns, please reach out to info@Devant and we can point you in the right direction, whether that's with our platform or with some of our career coaches. As I mentioned, we have some wonderful career coaches to choose from. But I won't take any more time from you. Sonia, thank you so much. That was a
Thank
wonderful
you.
presentation. Lots of information there for people to take away. And I hope, you all will walk away with feeling more confident going into an interview and kind of understanding a little bit more about the process there. So thank you so much for taking the time with us this last hour. We really appreciate it. And we will be sending out the email and the follow-up very shortly. So keep an eye on your inboxes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.